So, very nice to be here, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, Natasha. So, I'm going to tell you about NorthX Biologics, but also I'd like to put it in a context of manufacturing and why manufacturing in Sweden is important. So first of all, who am I? I understand you've talked about your why at the previous meeting. So I'm a curious person. I love building networks, so I could fit here as well, I would think. And I love embracing opportunities, especially when it comes to bringing innovations to patients. That is my drive. And I'd like to support people, innovators, to do that in different ways. But I also like to enjoy life. This is a picture of me at the Lofoten 2 years ago. There's so many things also outside work that you can enjoy, and that gives energy to put again in your work or in your ambitions. I'm a CEO of NorthX Biologics since about 2.5, 3 years back. I'm also a board member of 3 companies in the pharma area. Mireka Medicines, it's a German startup company. Alsecure Pharma, that I hope you know because they're in this building. And APL, Apotheek Produktion en Laboratorier. And that's quite nice to combine your sort of day job as a leader in a company or as in a company with another type of job, a board member, because you get to see different perspectives. And I also do some advisory work in committees, which helps sort of to understand the whole field, the whole ecosystem. My journey started in the Netherlands, where I'm born, and where I also went to university, Leiden University. I studied biopharmaceutical sciences there, and then I also did my PhD there, but found collaborators. I think this is sort of a theme in my journey, and I hope in many of your journeys, to find collaborators, to connect to people, so to learn more and together achieve more. So I worked with people in the University of Utrecht, where I did some animal studies. I hope you can see that. It's a nice picture of some pigs. Then I also did some research in the US, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, in Iowa, and at UCSF. But then I moved back to Europe and was hired at Astra. And at that time, Astra Pain Control had even some offices and labs here in this building, actually. So there was already connection to Huddinge. I worked for 18 years at AstraZeneca in the neuroscience R&D. R&D is still very close to my heart. But when they closed down, I felt that I wasn't really finished there. So I started up a community like this, Biovation Park, attracting companies to occupy, use the nice laboratories and equipments that AstraZeneca left behind. And it's still there. It's not as vibrant, I think, as what you achieved here. So that's very positive for this community. Then I worked at Valneva for, 7.5 years of vaccine manufacturing. And that started sort of my journey into manufacturing, and see that R&D is good, but if there is no next step, then it will never reach patients. So that's sort of my theme of today. And today I work at NorthX Biologics. In the meantime, I also did an MBA, which I think it doesn't have to be an MBA, but continuous education during your working career is definitely something I can recommend. You meet other people, you meet different viewpoints, you really get challenged in different ways and not stuck in your own little space. So, Sweden is a very innovative country. I took this picture from the web, and you may have seen something like this. This is from 2024, 2025, is it? Sweden is always ranked very high as an innovative country, which is good. Switzerland is always up there. You see the same countries up there, which is good. We have a long heritage. We have Pharmacia, we have Astra, we have Cytiva, we have other companies, we have startup companies, we have companies like BioArctic that really grow and make it here and internationally. But at the same time, I would say R&D doesn't really end at R&D. You need to make it all the way to the patients. And for the Swedish economy, it's also important. Sweden is a very small economy, so for us to be successful, we need to make sure that we export what we produce. And this is a picture that you can find, for instance, on Leaf's homepage, to see what is the pharmaceutical part of the Swedish export. And it varies a bit from year to year. Of course, AstraZeneca is a big part of it, but it's somewhere between 7 and 10% of total Swedish export is due to pharmaceuticals, which is good, but I think it could be even better. So what are the hurdles to bring R&D to manufacturing and to products and to patients? Well, there are many, and I've just named a few which come to mind. I think also if you would make a list, and highest up on the list is lack of funding. Quite often the R&D companies, the innovators, struggle with convincing investors that they need to give money to just their idea and develop it. But it's also about different skill sets. So if you're a scientist, you may be very good in neuroscience, but then when it comes to translation to patients, you may need other skill sets to complement your idea with. And you need to collaborate, so you need to find people to work together with, and that could be within academia, but it's also very wise to look at industry and to look at regulators. And then, of course, the perspective that we from NorthX like to bring is the manufacturing. You need to, at some point in time, think about manufacturing, and preferably not too late. So think about what is the scale that I need. I mean, it's expensive to do manufacturing in large scale, so you don't want to do it too early, but you also don't want to limit yourself that you will never be able to get to the scale that you need to get to patients. So this picture of the valley of death is often used to visualize that there is a gap between in the journey from academia, from the innovator to the industry, to clinical science. So in the translation, and CMC, or chemistry, manufacturing, and control, so the manufacturing part is a very important part of that. So you can really fail if you don't think manufacturing early enough. And I'm not going to go through all the details, and I'm sure a number of you already know this, but it's when you have an idea, whether it's a small molecule or a biologics, you need to think quite early, how can I produce this in a consistent way? So I produce it today, but in 2 years' time I should still be able to produce it in the same way, and in a different scale perhaps, and in a different facility, but it needs to be the same product. And you need to define that, and that's why we often talk about a control strategy. So you need to define when you produce it, at NorthX for instance, how does the facility look, the equipment, how should the people be trained, what raw materials do I have, how do I think about contamination if I go from one product to another. So it's not easy, and that's why I stress that it's good to talk to other people that have done it before, like us, but there are more people. And Sweden is actually quite good in manufacturing, so there are a lot of people, skilled people, that can help innovators to embark on this journey and maybe cross this valley of death in a positive way. So a CDMO, contract manufacturing, development manufacturing organization, is an organization that can help you with that, provides services in process development, in analytics, in manufacturing. We've done it before, that's important, so to rely on expertise so that you don't have to learn it from time zero. But of course, as an innovator, you are part of the process, so you will learn. So it can help you in speed to market, or speed to your clinical trials, but speed in your own process, because there is already infrastructure, there are quality systems in place. You can access the know-how, people have done it before, maybe not exactly your innovation, your process, but they can probably help you in many ways that you can't do on your own. There is, of course, already investments made in clean rooms, in equipment. You may need to adjust some parts, but usually at a CDMO, they are ready for you. And there is scalability, so you can start small, but you can also scale larger. And so NorthX is such a CDMO. We are also a national infrastructure, an industrial infrastructure for manufacturing. And in this particular picture, I've illustrated that Sweden has 3 of these industrial infrastructures. The first one was Testa Center at Saitiva. This is a non-GMP process development and scale-up organization that you can, I can say, get your production going. So the first time you've want to scale up, you can get help there. You can just rent by the week. You can go there with your own people, or you can get help. The second infrastructure is NorthX Biologics, and we are more going from non-GMP to GMP in biologics. And then the third one, the latest one, is CCRM Nordic. And they also provide support when it comes to commercialization plans and market access. And back to NorthX Biologics, we have our headquarters in Matfors, a small town or village outside Sundsvall, so about 4 hours away from here. And then we have a sister site in Stockholm, just in Solna, just outside KI. We're about 120 people. We work in biologics, so we've produced quite a lot of GMP, also non-GMP, but a lot of GMP batches, including vaccine programs, personalized medicine. Our facilities are a bit divided in expertise. So in the Matfors facility, we've worked for a long time with microbial expression to produce proteins or the bacteria themselves or plasmid DNA. We also do mRNA and cell therapy there, and we can also do fill finish and even commercial manufacturing. So that's the largest scale facility of us that we have. In Stockholm, we are more focused on the mammalian expression, so that's a core center for that. Do virus work, viral vectors, but also recombinant proteins such as antibodies. And there we can even go up to biosafety level 3. So, for instance, the SARS-CoV-2, when that came, when the pandemic came and we started to work on vaccines, we could do the work there because that was registered under BSL 3. As Natasha said, we'd like to see ourselves as beyond CDMO. So we're not only providing services, but we really want to make sure that we together with you can minimize the risk of your development program and make sure that your innovations reach the testing in patients sooner rather than later. So we really want to grow, and your success of the success of the innovator is our success. So we do this together. But it's quite complicated with biologics. I wouldn't say that small molecules are easy, but the complexity is definitely going to increase with the larger molecules. And there's also a huge variation if you go from a small molecule to an antibody, to a viral vector, to a bacteria, or to a cell, or you could even include tissue here. I haven't done that, but it's the sizes are different. The complexity of producing this in a consistent manner is definitely a challenge. At NorthX, we do process and analytical development in different areas, recombinant proteins, both microbial and mammalian. We do virus and viral vectors. We do cell therapy. And with the knowledge that we've built up over the years in both microbial and mammalian processes, we also now engage in extracellular vesicles. I'll come back to that. And we've done plasmid DNA for a long time. So this is the work we do with the different modalities in biologics, from the non-GMP to the GMP phase, including some fill and finish. So we can help you along in your first clinical trials all the way, I would say. And this can look something like that. So on the left side, you have a large bioreactor set up. And on the right side, you have a scale out of cell therapy that we are also engaged in. And this particular setup we are now using for a Swedish-Dutch company, Mendes, that are developing vididencel. And we've scaled out this process together with that company and is now ready for phase 3. So that's quite amazing that a Swedish company that we can do this together in Sweden. Some people think cell therapy is dead, but I would not agree. I think there are still plenty of opportunities there. So plasmid DNA is what we work on for preclinical, clinical and commercial applications. We do scale up, so we can start small and then we can scale up to 50 liter in a GMP setting, further if needed. Maybe I'll not go through all of this, but we've worked on a number of products, including 2 plasmid DNA vaccines that went into the clinic. It's a program that was supported and led by the Karolinska. Very successful. One of them was a COVID DNA vaccine. And we've also produced a gene of interest plasmid that is in a FDA approved product. So we're quite a trusted partner in the plasmid DNA, I would say. The largest area that we work in is proteins, both microbial and mammalian recombinant protein. At the moment, we do up to 500 liter scale for microbial, 250 for mammalian suspension, and we can also do adherent in an isellus situation. And this picture is just to show that you can start small, but if needed, you can scale up further. For this particular client, we, under a number of years, started in like 20 kilo per year, and all of a sudden more was needed. So then you work together with the client to make sure that you scale up, and you do that by, of course, adding people and adjusting schedules, but also by doing proactive maintenance, so you don't have to shut down for a number of weeks once a season. So we improved the batch success and had lower failure rates and could really go up to this higher level, so almost 300 kilograms per year of protein for this particular protein. So just an example that you can, if you put your mind to it and work together, you can achieve a lot. Viral vectors and viruses is also something we've worked with, and that is in the Stockholm site of NorthX. Different batches we've used, different biosafety levels we produced. So we do both the analytical development and the production of viral vectors. We've worked with an Austrian company, Hokipa, that developed therapeutic cancer vaccines using viral vectors. And we've produced them, and they are testing those, or have been testing those, in global clinical trials. We've also worked with the polio virus. Of course, there is a polio vaccine for many of us here, for all of us, I would say, but not for the whole world. So one of the things is that the polio vaccine is too expensive. So working with institutions like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to make a cheaper polio vaccine is definitely on our radar, and we've worked on two of those programs. And then it can look something like this. These are pictures from the Stockholm site. So working with proteins also means that we work with antibodies. And we now have established a collaboration with Demetra, a US-based company that that have a really good technique to produce stable cell lines expressing antibodies. I'm not going into this, but if you want, you can talk to Magnus, who's also here, who knows a lot about that. And we really see this as a big step forward for us. So now we can help our clients, the innovators, from the early start, really establishing a cell line that they can take all the way to GMP production with us. And I'd like to say some word about extracellular vesicles, because I think that those are really exciting. So you probably know this, because it's been around since the 60s. Bacterial cells, mammalian cells, they produced spontaneously vesicles all the time. So it's like budding off in this picture. And these vesicles, they are then containing the antigens that are on the outside of, for instance, bacteria. And those can be used as vaccines, as such, or you can even decorate them with other antigens. So in a way, it's a neat platform because it's not replicating, because they can't replicate, and you can really tailor them so that they contain the antigens of interest that can stimulate the immune system. The size is also quite good, between 20 and 300 nanometers, so they can be taken up by the immune system. So it's really a neat way to produce vaccines. And we work with a handful of companies now to do this, Swedish companies, but also other European companies. And there are not so many CDMOs doing this, so we're building up experience and a name in this area. And then cell therapy, as I said, we work with the company Mendes, and that's where we set up this system, using hollow fibers to really create a large area for the production of these dendritic cells that are then used as a therapeutic vaccine in AML. So first we did some work in the lab cabinet, but then we scaled this up to these quantum bioreactors, so you can really have a large area. And then from one quantum reactor, we scaled up to multiple quantum reactors, so that we can really have a large output that can supply to the clinical trials. So this is what we do. We have an aligned route from early stage process development to GMP, so to bring innovations to patients. And that also, of course, includes quite a lot of analytical development, because when you manufacture, you need to show that you have manufactured the right thing. So all the way during process development, you need to make sure that you've qualified your steps, that you show that you've made certain changes that you've built up your molecule, and we then can go all the way to the clinical product release and even to commercial product release. So bringing innovative therapies to patients, we think that GMP manufacturing and quality control is a very important step in this. It's a necessary step to make it all the way to patients, and you really need to engage with collaborators around to make this happen. And there are those people in Sweden, so I definitely want you to reach out to us or to others to make sure that your innovation makes it to patients. In Sweden, we put a lot of money into education and into R&D, which is good. But I would like to see and also discuss with you whether we could even do more. But to put more money into R&D, we need to make money. So I'd like to see this as a circular economy. If you do manufacturing of your product or your ID in Sweden, this gives a return on investments. This brings new businesses, they pay tax, they hire people. So it gives more money to the state to invest in more R&Ds, and also it gives money to companies to invest more. There's an incentive to do more R&D in Sweden. So I really hope that more companies like BioArctic will rise and grow and produce IDs, bring IDs to patients and bring products to the market, so that Sweden is not only an innovative country but also a competitive country that makes it all the way. So thank you very much. If you want to learn more about us, you can sign up by scanning this code for a newsletter. It's more on the scientific newsletter site. Or you're welcome to reach out to me, to Magnus, or to Johan, where's Johan is there, to know more about us. And we're always interested to engage with you. Thank you.